Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Tap Into Magic podcast. Today, I want to talk about a very large part of really Magic in general now, because of Commander being such a big format, but a large part of Commander in itself, and a big reason why people play, and also a reason why people don't play. It's kind of the crux of everything, which is the fact that Commander is a format, and one of the only ones with a weird social norm structure. So, of course, in other formats, you have very specific things with, allowing people to respond when they want to, and, shaking the hand, depending on, irregardless of whether who won or lost, and allowing, a lot of that kind of stuff, just very basic things. But Commander is very weird in that you want to win, but at the same time, it's not always pertinent to win, which goes against a lot of what, seasoned Magic players from outside Commander are used to. And a lot of the reason a lot of them are not able to get into the format, even if, they might like the concept of it. So, kind of going into why it's a social format. Firstly, Commander was, for the longest time, pretty much the only multiplayer format, and it really is the only one that's at least prevalent. You do have Oathbreaker, which just became official, but that only sees minor play, and most stores are not supporting Oathbreaker officially, just because it's so new. Maybe if it gets big enough. But at the same time, Oathbreaker, I've actually played a good amount of it. It is way more competitive than Commander, so I don't think it'll see as much play as maybe Wizards was hoping. But Commander pretty much is the multiplayer format, and because of that, there is no one opponent. It is not only multiplayer, but it is free for all. It is a 1v1v1v1. So you have 4 people pitted against each other, meaning that there is no one sole target that you need to eliminate. You need to eliminate all 3, which changes the strategy of the game. You are hoping to sort of whittle everyone down over time, rather than get them out at once. And that's more because of not efficiency, but the way the game state works. Because the entire dynamic has changed compared to something like Modern. Because in Modern, you have 2 people with 20 life and 60 card decks that can run 4 copies of any non-basic land that are pitted against each other, usually in a tournament of some sort. Of course, there's non-tournament play and casual play, but it's more aimed towards the structured play style. So with Commander, there is actually very little structured play, at least the places that I've gone to. Yes, you may have some sort of tournament style, maybe some sort of bracket, but a lot of times you're sitting there just to have fun and play. There's no actual prizes or anything. You're just sitting there to play the game. And with Commander, you not only have 100 cards in your deck, which makes certain that you're getting the cards you need less often, or at least the cards that are most efficient less often. It's also singleton, meaning that you can only have 1 copy of any card besides non-basic lands in your deck. So even those less efficient cards, or even if you could have had 4 copies, not only does that work in tandem with the 100 card rule, it just further slows down the efficiency of the format. And that doesn't mean that the format can't be efficient. Of course, you have many substitutes for certain cards. Like if you were wanting heavy tutor effects, especially in black, you have demonic tutor, you have empiric tutor, you have imperial seal, you have demonic tutor, grim tutor. There's a bunch that you could run that are not the same card, but that are similar enough where they kind of get that the thing that you're trying to achieve, and you can still be very efficient. That's why CDH competitive Commander even exists, is because it can still be run as a very high power format. But also adding the doubling life total of 40 instead of 20. Each individual player has a total of 120 health to try to whittle down instead of only 20. You are having to deal with 100 more life worth of opponent to get rid of. And of course, you're not the only one, helping with that. But it makes it so that the games, in any sense, last a lot longer. So there is a lot more investment into each game. And because of the fact that you might take your turn, do a few things, and even if your turn takes 2 minutes, and everyone's turn takes 2 minutes, it's still going to take another 6 minutes after you've played your turn to get back to your turn again with all 4 people still in the game. So that leaves you a lot of downtime. And another thing that isn't really prevalent in any other format is politics. So because, you are all one-on-one and, the saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, you can make deals with people. One-on-one, it doesn't really matter. Of course, I'm just going to try to kill you. There's no point making a deal with you because you're the enemy. But while in Commander, you might technically be an enemy of someone, but there might be someone that's doing way better. And this sort of part of the game where one person is doing marginally better than the rest of the team is called arch enemy. It's the arch enemy of the group. The person who's ahead the most usually gets targeted the most because they're most likely to win. And of course, the other players are trying to do that and not allow their opponents to win. So that's where you see a lot more sort of social activity sort of creep into the format is at least at base level is right there. You have a lot of people sort of convening to try to get rid of a threat if it ever pops up. Even in the competitive level, people are going to be focusing on one person that's going off more than the others to try to get them down and kind of subvert their attention away from, anyone else. So, and because of this, especially because it's casual nature, a lot of people that may not have ever played Magic or that may not have gotten to Magic otherwise feel comfortable getting into Commander because not only is it huge, it's the biggest format that Magic has ever had, and it's continuing to grow, especially with all the support Wizards it's giving, which, a lot of people debate whether that's truly the right thing or whether, other formats need a little more love or, if rules need to change. Regardless of that, it is the biggest, and it's basically become what Magic is today. Magic is basically Commander. And I do say this a lot in a lot of my videos, but it is definitely something I feel is important to sort of note because Commander, it's a very weird deal because, especially kind of tying it back to the central point of this video, it's a social format and it's not, what Richard Garfield intended, I don't think, to have it this way. Of course, the gathering of people is the big part of it. But it's not played the same way I think that was intended from the beginning, which is why, especially in Commander, when you see a lot of the different card choices, a lot of older cards that did not have a multiplayer format or maybe even a 40 life format or a singleton format in mind get exploited a lot. Something like Demonic Consultation, I believe, is the one where you name a card, you can exile your library, or Tainted Pact, where you're going until you name 2 of the same cards. And a lot of decks don't even run 2 of the same cards, even basics. So you're getting a lot of those sort of exploitable cards, and it kind of lends to the, I would like to say, perverse nature of the format. It is very I would have to say sort of tainted, in a weird way, which makes it sound a lot worse than it really is. It's just more of, it's got its own sort of unique, it's really hard to put, my tongue on it. No, my finger on it. That's the one. The tip of my tongue, whatever. Too many alliterations or things going on in my head at once. But it's very much a different style of game than anything else. And even compared to any other trading card games, I don't really see that very often. I know Flesh and Blood has a special mode. I forget what it's called, but it's you have 4 people, and it's sort of a free-for-all, except you can only attack the people to the left and right of you and not across from you, which kind of changes it. And of course, one of the big things I guess I should mention is there is Two-Hit a Giant within Commander, but that itself is not really a format. It's a game mode, you could say, where it's basically 2 people against 2 people. They're both on one team, and they have a little bit of extra life. I think it's, 3/4 or 2/3 more life, I believe is what it is. Something like that. But you get a lot of extra. It's completely different there because it's still 1v1 in a way. Yes, you have 2 people on the same team, but it's still one team against another. It's 2 separate entities. With Commander, it's completely separated. And I am really bad at going on tangents, but basically what I'm saying here is because you have these casual players and a lot of people that are maybe not good at the game or maybe don't want to play competitively and just want to, play for the factor of the social aspect of it, or that want to play a slower game and are not looking for anything too complicated, it becomes more of a point to make the game fun for everyone than to have the outcome be that you win. And like everything else, and especially if you look at the 2v2 form or the 1v1 formats, any deck that is at the same level as the rest of the decks, they're like the perfect game. Everyone in a 1v1 format should win 50% of the time if the game is balanced correctly. And within Commander, it should only be 25% of the time because, you have 2 more players added to the mix. But a lot of times that's not what happens. Certain decks are above each other, and one of the big things and the big parts of Commander is what people call Rule 0, which is basically judging each other's decks. You're not trying to play something that counters someone else. You're playing to have fun. And this is actually a big reason why I got into the game, and sort of my mindset on the format as a whole is it's more of a board game in a way than it is a card game. Yes, you have cards and you're playing cards and you're playing against meta, especially if you're playing comp, it kind of takes us out of it. But it's got the same atmosphere to me, at least the games I play, as a board game. You're sitting around, you've got these, game pieces that you're moving around. You take your turn, you do a thing, and at some point one person's the winner. It plays very similarly to that, which is I think a lot of people's mindsets, honestly, when you play the game. It's more about exploring things, and that's another big part of it, because Commander has the entire card list, excluding banned cards and restricted. I guess there's no restricted list for Commander. That's pretty much just Vintage. But you have only the ban list for Commander, but you have access to all sets within the game. You see a lot more varied play, and especially because it's singleton, you have 100 cards. You may not always have the most efficient, card. You might have, okay, here's my brainstorm. I can draw 3 cards, I can do whatever. And you're going to need cards that do something similar to that, but that maybe aren't quite as good because, you can only go down from what the best cards are. So you see a lot of cards that normally don't see play, and even especially because you have a commander at the forefront, people are building commanders and building around archetypes that you honestly would never see anywhere else, because it is not a competitively driven format. It is casual in nature. Therefore, it's more about people getting creative and having fun with the decisions they make, both in deck building and in game, to have, the experience of the game and kind of make it what they want it to be. So going sort of towards, I guess, examples of this and sort of the clash that I've seen, I actually, at my game store, it's very easy to tell if someone has come from outside of Commander, because they do a lot of different hand movements and the way they lay down cards and the way they draw, even if they've played in more sort of, I guess, I would have to say strict levels of play where you have a lot of legalities and judges are being more called, and you've got a lot more rules lawyering happening. Their movements are a lot different, and one of the biggest giveaways is they give people time to respond to even like the littlest things. So, I'm going to play this 2/2 creature responses. It's like, if that's not winning the game, a lot of times people don't care. If that's not posing a big threat in Commander, they don't care. But because those people are conditioned that even the smallest things like a 2/2, if you look at something like, Dragon's Rage channel, I think that's even a 1/1 or a 1/2. That's not a very big creature. It doesn't do a whole lot, especially in Commander, just because, people got way more life and you have a lot more to deal with. But something like Modern, that's a way bigger threat, so there might be actual responses to that. You might, get that countered or get it bounced back to hand, or maybe it gets bolted or something. But I was playing with some guys, and they said that it had been their first time back in a long time. It said this was his first night playing Commander in 3 years, and he said that originally, when he tried Commander, he was playing in a game that someone was playing, I believe, Marin of Clan Toth. I believe I said that correctly, and told the group that his entire game plan and his combo pieces and synergies were all based around his Commander. And so, taking that into account and being the non-Commander player, the best outcome there is to, don't let the Commander come out. Let it, deal with the Commander every time. And he said what ended up happening was that anytime the Commander would try to come out of the command zone, he would try to cast it. It would either get removed upon entering the battlefield or straight up countered. And he said by the 4th time he did that, the dude said almost flipped the table. He was so mad and immediately stormed out of the store. And of course, not only do you have all the people around you, but there's still 3 people playing the game, which makes it incredibly awkward to continue. But within the game state, he was never at fault. There should be never any sort of harsh feeling against anything that happens in the game. There's nothing they can do to personally insult you by casting cards. But the fact that his entire enjoyment, whoever, was getting upset and playing Marin, the fact that he was not being able to play the game was breaking a social norm. So a big part of Commander is, allow people to do things, and it's kind of contradictory, of course, and that's, I feel like, why it's such a big thing and a confusing thing for a lot of players, is that, normally in Commander, that's what you want to do. You're trying to do your best to kill the opponent because that's what's needed. But in Commander, it's sort of presumed that you're going to allow them to do stuff, but not allow them to do too much, but maybe win or maybe not. It's all case by case, and it makes it incredibly confusing, especially when you have a lot of these people that I would say the demographic definitely may not have the best social skills a lot of times, for this to be such a prevalent part of it and to have such an intricate, number of little rules and, different, pieces of the format based around, the people you're playing with. It's kind of crazy to see that you had such a complex social structure when it comes to, playing Magic. It doesn't seem, correct, but it is kind of what it's evolved into. And people are there just to have a good time. They're not there to necessarily win. And it's not no fault to the guy that was playing. He was just trying to play correctly. But that was just definitely something that I saw was, I guess you could say, a faux pas within the Commander community. It's a really hard line to walk down. And it just stems from the way that the game has progressed, and then the way, Commanders have been created by Wizards and the way that they've been built around, coming from older sets before Commander. It's just kind of a mess of different things. And it's kind of why, honestly, if I was to get someone into the game, I would try to get them into 60 card first, because there's way less to deal with, not only in all these social norms and things, but also because you have the entire Commander zone, which is a whole different deal. You have the singleton rule where you can't run a bunch of different things, and it definitely changes the way the game works. But at the same time, not everyone is looking for that sort of competitive, efficient nature, which is why they turn to Commander, why it's gotten so big. Like I said earlier, it appeals to a lot more people because you can play it on a casual level, and it's more of something fun to do with friends rather than, I'm going to go compete and try to win something. Which, I mean, even for people that are playing those 60 card formats and competing, it's not all about the winning. It's about playing the game and having fun. But I definitely see a vast change in just the sort of banter. You don't have as much in 2-card or in a 1v1 competitive scene. Either you're doing something most of the time, you don't really have a lot of downtime, or you're not usually playing with the same people a whole lot unless you're returning to a store, and even then people come in and out. But Commander, a lot of times, and this is a big thing that I think even Mark Rosewater said, and who knows, it's more of an, I guess, allegation. I don't know if that has a bad connotation, but just some sort of anecdotal piece of news or fact that he said, saying that the most prevalent, and I do believe it's true, but the most prevalent type of player and the biggest audience is actually not Commander. The biggest format is kitchen table Magic, which is just sort of a what you would do, if, as little kids, a lot of people had Pokemon cards, since that's come out, it appealed to the little kids. They would get cards and whatever. And a lot of people didn't know how to play, your children, you're 6 or whatever. And you just like the cards and you're making up whatever and, playing with what you think it is. And that's kind of what kitchen table is. You may not know all the rules. You may not even have a proper deck. It may be invalid. You may not have enough lands to really make it correctly. You may be playing with a weird amount of players. You may not be actually adhering to any sort of constructed play in any sort of way. You may not even have like a type of format that you're going towards. You might have 72 cards in your deck just cause that's what you had laying around. But that is the most prevalent way that people play because it's the easiest for them. It's the least intrusive, and it kind of ties back towards that sort of casual board game feel, which is why Commander's popped so incredibly off as it has. So kitchen table is definitely where you're seeing the most amount of activity. And it's really hard to judge, how many people are playing because none of it's, how are you going to ever track that? Someone might say that, I'm just playing Commander casually because I have my, my dad's old cards from, the 90s that I'm playing with, or, I played a long time ago when the game started and I've just recently got back into it, and, I'm playing with my son, teaching him, or whatever it may end up being. It's just easiest in that way. And so sort of coming from that, there is no real bar of entry at that point. And I feel like that's such a huge part of the game of Magic, especially if you look at sort of the older aspects of it, the original sort of 90s era, I guess you would say, where you had more Grand Prix, you had, I guess, RCQs. I don't know. You had the whole Pro Tour and everything, and you still have a lot of that today, and it's been revived ever since COVID went and did all the stuff it did. But it was definitely at its peak back then because the game was brand new. Card games in general were pretty brand new. It's pretty much the progenitor of most modern card games you see. It's actually another episode I want to do later on of the podcast is comparing Magic to the other card games, because I do think it is very interesting. Which I want to go on anecdotes right there and kind of just go off on, all the different experiences I've had with that. But I definitely want to save that for later because it is a whole other thing to get into. But yeah, it is extremely strange. With Commander, there's such a need, and it's kind of irked me, especially lately, because I started actually over COVID. Just learning the game myself, because I didn't, trying to get into a hobby. And that's actually where a lot of people got it too. And you saw a huge spike in Magic players then, especially the kitchen table, because that was pretty much the only place you could play. You saw a lot of more of these casual players getting into it, trying to find a new hobby. And I was a bad player, of course. That's how it always starts. And I've been playing for quite a while now, and I definitely have seen that not only has, I guess you would call it, my game sense in a way sort of progressed over time as I've gotten to know the cards better, and that's really the biggest part of the game, is knowing what cards do and, how they interact with each other, but also, as the collection I've amassed has grown, it's become a lot harder to play more casually. And that's not even to say that I wouldn't, play casual. And I love the casual. I like it way more than competitive. And I don't think competitive is bad. I actually do like playing competitive here and there. And I do think it's an interesting take on it. And I do think it definitely has a place within Commander, even though it is, in essence, a casual format. I do think that competitive part of it is not only, I think, healthy for it. It's good to have, that anything goes sort of mentality, especially with how strict, at least at the sort of places I've been, how strict it's gotten and how many rules you have to kind of jump around that are never told to you. It's good to see that, but I prefer the casual nature, but I feel like at a point, any player will kind of see the different, lines that cards will get to, and you just become a more efficient as a player. And that's a big part of Commander as well, is it's not always about the deck, it's about who's piloting it. You could be playing, a $5,000 deck with all of the best reserve list cards and, every expensive thing under the sun, and have it be the most efficient, tier 1 competitive deck. But if you don't know what you're doing and you don't even know what the deck has to do, that's why a lot of decks sort of include primers. If you don't know, what you're doing there, you might lose to, a very base level deck that someone threw together if they know what they're doing. So it's a lot of times, it's really hard, especially coming from like video games where you're trying to do as good as possible. It's all competitive. You got, most multiplayer games you see in anymore, or online games, are all, competitive FPSs most of the time. You have MOBAs here and there, but it's always about getting better. It's very cutthroat, and that's such a huge part of games in general. So kind of getting into that mindset and trying to go towards more of that board game, side of things where you're more playing to have fun. It's really hard to sort of hold yourself back, and that's something I've actually had a hard time with is I'll start doing something incredibly complicated or synergizing a lot with certain cards, and I have to remind myself that even if the deck I'm playing is extremely bad, or, I'm putting myself at a disadvantage, that doesn't mean that I'm going to, be losing. I can put myself to that level. It's not that I'm playing cards that are too good for wherever I'm playing at. But it's the fact that efficiency isn't always the best thing, even in the sort of casual nature. Even if, oh hey, this deck that I'm playing, it doesn't rebuild well. I don't really have any way to get the things that I need out specifically. I have to draw them. I don't have a lot of draw. The mana base is clunky, whatever it might be. It's still a factor of the way people perceive the deck. So if you're playing against someone and you happen to get the right things, or a lot of times even if people are drafting, or I've done this a lot where I've had the friends that I've been teaching the game, swap me decks with their deck, and still able to play with that. It's more about playing to your audience, and that's kind of the key thing here, and the really hard part, and something that I definitely recommend and that I honestly strive for is Commander is best played. And this is kind of something I was trying to touch on with the kitchen table thing before I got too sort of whisked away in my own thoughts, is the fact that Commander honestly is best played because of all the different factors and all the different power levels of deck. Even the rule 0 of, hey, I'm playing this deck, what are you playing? Even that is a lot of times not effective just because of how complicated it is, And the biggest thing I always say is your 7 is not my 7. If you're rating on a 1 to 10 scale, what I think is this level is not what you think, because you have a different perspective of how the game works. So it is an entirely different process to go through that. And that's why I think that the best way to play Commander is honestly to try to have, not actually have it in an LGS, a game store. The best way to do it is to have your own group of friends if you can, or maybe even people that are from your game store. If you can get them down to, even just play together as a group and come to the game store, even if you're not going to, someone's house or going to some sort of other, meeting place, to be at your LGS even, and to just constantly have that pod, because it allows you to sort of attune yourself to not only the environment of the players that you're playing with, but to each other's decks and their play styles. So the best Commander games are definitely the ones that are played, in the privacy of someone's home, where, you're a bunch of friends that have played together forever, and you kind of know that. And that's kind of one of the hardest things to do, because, with this sort of thing, it's not very easy to have that happen. Making those connections is never instantaneous, and especially because it's such a complicated game, and there's so many different aspects to it that a lot of people getting into it, it's even having the confidence to play can be hard, or going to the store to go play. It's definitely a daunting thing, and I've been playing for a very long time, not Magic specifically, but trading card games, and I can definitely say that, as a young kid, I remember starting, I think it was second grade that I first started playing in. I think it was Yu-Gi-Oh! I started out with, actually. And it was really nerve-wracking to even be there in the store and playing. My hands were always shaking trying to play cards, because I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm doing good, and you always know that there's someone else that knows more about the game than you, and that you never feel like you're doing good. And I feel like the great part about Commander is it mitigates a lot of that. People, and this applies to everything, but especially with Commander, people are extremely friendly 99% of the time, and they know, that you're there to just play and have fun. I would never take someone that's brand new to card games, even in general, but to Magic, to Modern, and try to have them play, unless I, was privately tutoring them how to play, or had someone there that wanted to just run a few games, or if they had them, watch the game. I would never really start them there. I do think that for a new person to the game, it's complexity-wise best to start the 60-card format. They sell starter decks all the time that have great value not only, but that are great to start with. Literally that's why they're called starter decks. But are a great place for people to, figure out the game. And they even have the Commander decks, but I think the starter decks are the best place to show someone what happens, because not only you're running multiple copies of a card, so there's less cards to deal with. You're only at 20 health. You only have one opponent to worry about, and there's no command zone extra rules that you also have to worry about. But I think on a sort of social level, and this is something I actually hear from a lot of people, Commander is definitely the best way to go. I hear from a lot of people that, that's their one thing. That's the one thing they get out of the house for a lot of times, is to come play Commander. And I've even heard people say that I'm not normally very sociable, but for some reason I'm Magic. For a lot of people, that's a second home. It's very much a place they feel safe in, and that's definitely something I think that those type of places should be. And it doesn't even have to be a game store, but if someone's really into books, that might be their library, might be their sort of safe place, and having that place to sort of, I guess in a way, seek refuge, but that it doesn't always have to be a negative way, like you're coming from someplace bad to go someplace good. But having that sort of even change in scenery for a lot of people, I do think it's very at the very least mentally healthy to have that sort of thing. And for a lot of people, that is Commander. And so I definitely, anytime I see anyone new get into the game, I do try to help with not only tips for game, but also the general aspect of getting into the hobby, and even a hobby in general. There's so many different levels of people that walk into these game stores, that it's definitely something that and especially seeing with this channel, I hope you guys have seen that this is sort of a passion of mine, to teach people and sort of share my experience with people, because I feel like that everyone needs something to do, and Magic has grown so recently, and especially for me, it's become such a big deal that I definitely want to be able to share it with people, because I feel like it can offer so much to people in a lot of different ways. And that's the main reason why I even got into Commander, was because it was an awesome way to get into any sort of hobby. I did high school mostly at home. I think it was during COVID that I stopped going publicly. It's still a public school that I went to, but I went to online. I stopped going to what I think they refer to it as brick and mortar in-person school. I did online, and once starting that, it's you might be on a webcam talking to people every once in a while, but you don't really know anyone. You don't really talk to anyone outside of that. There's no downtime. All the downtime is spent in your room or your house with whoever's living there. So you're not really getting that social interaction. So for me, it was amazing to be able to get into something that got me out of the house, for one, besides work or whatever, and allowed me to sort of pursue something that made me happy. And that's a big reason for it as well. Is it's that pursuit of happiness, and it's that sort of allowing yourself to have that thing that you can look forward to. And it's definitely like I played a lot of video games with people. I've delved into a lot of hobbies with like writing and art, and even playing something like Dungeons and Dragons, or tabletop RPGs in general. I have never seen so much sort of like such a strong response from people, and like something that is so ingrained into who these people are as Magic. It is just incredible to see how much it means to them. And so I definitely think that the game itself should be monitored like it has been. You have all these different YouTubers talking about the different parts of the game, and what's good and what's bad, and what WotC's doing to either help or hurt the game. And it's 9 times out of 10, it's never out of malice. It's always out of love. Especially and I mean, the biggest example out there is Tulane Community College. And the professor, he's always ragging on him, but it's not in a way that's, oh, you guys suck, I hate the game. It's that I want this game to be something that everyone can come to, and I want it to stay in a way that it remains open, not only accessibility-wise in a financial sense, but also, in a fun sense. I want the game to remain fun, and that's why I'm so glad to see, and even outside of Magic, to see him doing so many different things. And a lot of people playing not just Commander. I don't think the game should be pigeonholed into that, because it offers so much in so many different, variations. And even though I am a Commander player, I have, in some instances, played Standard. I think Arena is such a great place for people to start. That's really, barring paper Magic in general, that is definitely the best place to start. So if you're new to the game and you're somehow, 30 minutes into this and you don't really know what I'm talking about, or you haven't really played, definitely go check out Magic Arena. It's on mobile finally. It's, I think, finally getting ported to Steam even. Great place to start. But it's just amazing to see that all these different YouTubers branch out, and it's more about the trading card hobby in general. Like I've seen Yu-Gi-Oh!, I've seen Pokemon, I've seen Flesh and Blood, I've seen so much stuff from the professor, which is awesome to see him supporting all these different, games, both big and small, and kind of see the different levels of game. And it's also awesome in a more, I guess, I can't really say a like business sense, but more of just like playing towards YouTube, being able to keep yourself more open. And of course I don't think he's ever been like, oh, I wish I could stop doing Magic content, because of course it seems to be, at least from my perspective, something that he deeply enjoys and that a lot of people that doing this content deeply enjoy. But allow himself to branch out and not pigeonhole himself into one specific thing. And I definitely like seeing that. Or I guess another big one's Pleasant Kenobi. I love Pleasant Kenobi stuff. He's an awesome guy. But seeing his Warhammer stuff, I love, and I think he's got a separate channel for that. But I love his Legacy content's really fun. Of course, there's always Commander, and that's really the default. But seeing all those different aspects of it and kind of seeing, in a lot of ways how it's affected people's lives. It's just, I've heard so many stories. I've been playing for so long, and you always get to playing Commander, but seeing the different levels of interest people have into it. I've had a lot of my close friends, I've tried to get into it, and some have taken more to it than others, but kind of showing them a different, type of thing. And that's the biggest thing for me. And I feel like one of the reasons why I like the game so much is the fact that I'm a huge board game fan. I love board games. I've been trying to, I have a giant thing, the giant like collector, whatever thing of Gloomhaven, the giant, it's like 20 pounds I've been wanting to get into. It seems like really a lot of fun. I'm a huge fan of Catan, Risk. I love Betrayal at the House on the Hill, I think is what it is. I love I love board games. I think it's so fun. Sit down, and I just love being able to talk to people in that sort of manner and have some sort of medium to go along with it. I think it's a really just fun way to connect with people, and a really good way to kind of get to know people, because they open up a lot more when they're doing something that they love. So you get a lot more of people than you would, saying and going, sitting somewhere, or just being, even in school or college or whatever. You get a lot more of people when they're doing something that they care about. So it's definitely fun to see that. And I always found it interesting that some of these games, you have variations of options that you can pick within the game. You're able to, I'm going to pick this archetype, or I'm going to go towards this objective within this game. And I've always been a fan of not only rules in general and being able to see rules and have a complex structure based around a game. Of course, with Gloomhaven, you have something crazy like that. But being able to break the rules is also a big part of it. And that's why I love competitive Commander so much, is because it's trying to find the most effective and easiest way to break the game. Get to that infinite combo and win just as fast as possible. And I think that kind of exploitation is what makes the game so fun. And I feel like a lot of times is what really keeps the game afloat. If you didn't really have those and it was more strict, I don't think it would be as fun, at least to me, to play. I do like these sort of the two halves, and not only the board game aspect of being able to talk to those people, but also having the objectives to complete. It's been a very fun experience for me, and I also hope that all this babbling nonsense that I've been talking has kind of showed anyone out there that it's if nothing else, even if you disregard all of what I've said about all these other people and all of the different things that I've seen in my own life, being able to take me as an example for one of these people that has definitely had, it's weird to say, but I think my life changed because of the game. It's been an amazing experience to be able to get into something like this and to have something to be so passionate about. It really definitely having something to look forward to, I feel like, is such a big part of living. And to have something like this where once or twice a week you're going down to the game store, or you're waiting on a new set to release, or you're just getting these cards in the mail, or whatever it is, it's amazing to have something like that to look forward to. But yeah, I think I've definitely drawn on long enough, and I do hope that you have enjoyed this episode and you kind of have more insight into, if not the commander format, at least sort of the social norms and why it might be sort of skewed towards, the casual player base. But yeah. Well, I definitely am grateful for everyone that has tuned in here. I mean, this is pre-recorded, so I don't know how many of you, but for anyone that did, I'm definitely grateful for that. And if you have any feedback you want to give me, whether that be, what you thought about this, or just want to have some sort of conversation on any of the topics I've touched on, or if you want me to talk about something in the future, I'm always open to that. So let me know down in the comments or on social media somewhere. If you're not on YouTube, if you're on Spotify, go to youtube.com/ at the enlightening tutor, or at enlightening tutor. There's no the, or on Spotify you can probably find it just by looking up I think it's the enlightening tutor, or maybe looking Tap Into Magic, one of the two. But yeah, I hope to see all of you guys in the next episode.